It's been a while since I've done one of these sports MMOs. Well, since last week, if you've only been following me through Blistered Thumbs, but that was a really old video anyway. Still, there's really not too much backstory behind this one, so I'm just gonna get right into it. This is the MMO Grinder, and it's time to look at Fantasy Tennis. Developed by Npixsoft and published by Alaplaya, Fantasy Tennis, or Fantasy Tennis 2 according to the slider on the Alaplaya website and one area of the launcher, is exactly what it says on the box. Like Mario Golf and Mario Tennis, this game continues the grand Far Eastern tradition of making colorful games based on activities made popular by really rich people. Still waiting on Mario Polo there, guys, unless you were too busy working on Mario stock trading or something. Touché. I'll give Fantasy Tennis one thing. At least it's not beating around the bush with its title. Even the story basically amounts to, I got transported to a magical world and now everyone wants me to play tennis. The game itself is pretty straightforward too. Well, let's begin. One thing you might notice is how much the game will remind you of Panga if you've played it, and despite it being developed by a completely different company, I can't help but see the influence. There's the well-rounded, childlike main characters, the much more well-rounded female characters, the white-haired pretty boy, some weird animal girl, and Pinocchio? Again, this game focuses on bright colors and flashy effects, so it's what you'd expect from something called Fantasy Tennis. There's a bit of variety in courts, but not nearly that many to choose from. They have a weird range and quality, too. Twinkletown is an interesting shadow from a nearby steeple cast up on the court. Mons Lava takes place inside of an active volcano with lava-filled cracks marking the court, but alternatively the arena court is stone gray in a lifeless void. Kinda jarring. One thing I fault this game on is the complete lack of graphic customization. Well, at least resolution-wise. The game only runs in 1024x768. You can choose windowed mode, full screen, and that's about it. Still, since the interface is easy to see and the chat block easy enough to read, this isn't too much of an issue. The music in this game doesn't really carry me. It's pretty standard for a fantasy game with cute graphics, if that makes any sense. None of it really stands out to me, although I do like the Divaberg track. It's a lot like Panga's soundtrack, but far less memorable. You'll probably want something else in the background as you play. There didn't seem to be that many different tracks for me to find, but that's understandable for a game this simplistic. As sound goes, it's a pretty simple mix of smacks, thwacks, and crashes to fit with the tennis theme. The game features a lot of voice work though, most of it in Korean, and there's a heavily accented announcer that you might find amusing. I find it odd that Nikki sounds very feminine, and when starting out the game I wasn't sure if it was him talking or Loon Loon. I also remember playing my first match against a Dhampir player and spent most of the time laughing at his really Englishy lines. Sound and music does what it does, but again, pretty standard for this type of game. One thing you're going to notice if you decide to play this game is that the Alaplaya website is set in Europe. If you're looking for the American server, just stop. There is none. Those in the US can still sign up just fine. Starting out in this game is simple enough. Once you've logged in, you're asked to pick from one of two starter characters, Nikki or Loon Loon. Like Nuri and Hana from Panga, they're the well-rounded starters and are identical stat-wise, so this is purely an aesthetic choice. Then you'll be asked to give that character a new name and distribute 5 extra points into their stats. I'll explain how those work later on. Once the game starts, it'll ask if you want to do the tutorial, and there's no reason not to. It'll give you a rundown of the control and the special quirks about the gameplay. Use the arrow keys to move around the court. To hit the ball with a straight shot, hit the S key. To hit it with a high arcing shot, called a lob, hit A. D is used for items in battle mode, and the spacebar is used for skill shots when it's applicable. Okay, now those of you who have no idea how tennis or its insane scoring system works, here's a quick rundown. 2 to 4 players will face off on opposite sides of a rectangle court with a net in the middle. One side will serve to the other, and the other side will attempt to return the ball. If one side misses the ball goes into the net, or is hit out of bounds, a point is scored for the opposing side. 0 points is called love, 1 point is called 15, 2 points is 30, and 3 points is 40. If both sides reach 40, the score is called a deuce, and the game continues until one side leads the other by 2 points. When that is accomplished, the game is won, the score is reset, and if the same team wins the second game, the match is over. I don't get it either. There are 3 major game modes to cover. Well, technically 2, but there's a bit of distinction between 2 of them. First up is Basic Mode, which more or less follows the basic rules of tennis I just mentioned. When it's your turn to serve, hit either S or A to start a gauge that will quickly fill, then empty 3 times before you automatically serve. The idea is to hit as close to the top as possible for max power, where your serve will actually knock back the receiver. You can also control the angle of your serve by holding an arrow key before you hit a button. You can also return balls with charge shots, which increase the power the ball is hit, and if you have a special racket, build up a power meter to perform skill shots. Skill shots come in both offensive and defensive forms, where you can use the skill shot to either launch an attack or hit a ball that's far out of your reach. Skill shots also come in types, like the ones that curve all over the playfield, or even burrow underground. The skill shots you have, if they're even available, depend entirely on the racket you have equipped, so be wary of that. Your starting racket cannot perform any skill shots. You can also perform high-powered attacks by performing smash attacks, which become available when the opponent returns the ball with a lob. A star will appear in the field, and if you stand in the star and return the ball, it will fire forward quickly and knock back and slow anyone who returns it. The next mode, and my favorite mode in the game, is Battle Mode. While the basics of tennis are included, you don't serve at all in this mode. Instead, a creature will serve the ball every time it goes out of play. The main feature of the mode is to whittle down the HP of the opposing team. Every time the opponent misses the ball, the team members will take damage. In addition to that, there are items scattered among the course that appear in the form of blue crystals that will grant a random attack or defensive item. Press D to use these items, but keep in mind that some items take longer to activate and might leave you open for an attack or cause you to miss the ball entirely. Attack items come in the form of fireballs, meteors, green magic spears, and such, while defensive items can shield you from damage or heal you and your teammates. You can also gain equipable items in battle mode that you can bind to the hotkeys Q, W, E, R, and T. I really have the most fun when playing battle mode. It's like a Mario Kart version of tennis. Another mode is Guardian Battle, which is basically battle mode with computer-controlled boss bots. These bots are what we refer to in the medical community as cheating bitches. They spam attack items with what seems to be no casting time and can dash all over the court with little effort. Also, they have way more HP than your party does, so it'll be a major war of attrition. There's a lot of experience and items to be gained here. With a bit of gold, you can purchase a computer-controlled pet from the shop. Known as a Battlemon, they have their own stats and can be used at any time you want to round out your team and in any gameplay mode. The experience you gain is extremely painfully low. This is made all the more painful by the fact that you need to be level 5 to equip a decent racket, provided you don't want to pay real money to get one. When you do level up, you'll gain 1 point to upgrade your stats with. Unlike Pangya, your character level actually matters, as your stats directly affect all forms of gameplay, so you can't really use your skill and wits to take out a level 50 player when you're still in the single digits. Here's how each stat affects your characters, so you'll know where to place your points to suit your style. Strength, or STR, increases the speed of the ball when you hit it, with the added effect of making attack items stronger and do more damage in battle mode. Stamina, or STA, lessens the downtime you take from returning smash attacks, with the added bonus of lessening the damage you take in battle mode. Dexterity, or DEX, is a misleading stat. It doesn't increase your movement speed like you'd think it does, but instead makes it easier to move around the court by making it easier to turn in the other direction, or recover faraway shots. In battle mode, it increases the number of projectiles fired by certain attack items like the meteors. Willpower, or WIL, is the trick shot stat, making the ball curve more when returned and increasing the overall damage given to the opposing team when they miss the ball in battle mode. I tell you this because the game does not. It's overall very confusing and doesn't do the normal MMO interface thing of giving you a pop-up window to explain what you're mousing over. Of course, you could always just click on the help mode and... oh, well, that's just wonderful. For practice, you can play a very large and overall boring single-player game that gives slight rewards to experience and gold, as well as items. The problem is that the XP is very minimal, and you're only rewarded if you win. If you lose, you get nothing. So the best way to earn experience is to play the multiplayer mode. At its core, you've got a very simple, entertaining game that can be a lot of fun to play. It's just that, remember how I said this was a European server? Well, expect mostly European players, and that, of course, means a language barrier. I have yet to run across a player that speaks English. Hell, even the Wikipedia article on this game is only available in German. As you can imagine, this makes communication nigh impossible for English speakers, unless you speak multiple languages. Now, before I continue, I want to ask this one simple question to the community at large of fantasy tennis. I'm going to put this as nice as I possibly can. Why are so many of you such horrible people? I'd swear, no one wants to play this game. Oh, there are rooms, dozens of rooms and matches waiting for people to play, but good luck entering any of them as a new player. I don't know if there's a stigma of elitism, but I've been booted from rooms the minute I clicked ready. I've spent minutes waiting for players in a room only to witness countless players enter, then exit, then enter again, then immediately exit, and the cycle keeps on and on. I have a better chance getting into someone else's room, that is, if I'm not blocked or kicked out again. If you don't want certain people entering your games, privatize them and password them. Shit ain't rocket science. I think it has a lot to do with character level. A high-level character won't get squat for beating a low-level character XP-wise. Hell, I've made more XP for losing than my opponent did for winning half the time. But it's the free server, who did you expect to find? The same thing happened in Panga's free servers quite a bit, but like Panga, you'd think I'd just tell you to play on the rookie server, but nobody plays on the rookie server, ever. It is always empty. It is painfully frustrating because playing multiplayer is really the only way to gain a decent amount of XP, to where you can finally be playing alongside these people fairly. It's a major issue. Other modes you can access from the main map include the housing area, where buying and decorating the home can actually help boost your gained experience and gold. You can even invite other players to your home as a chat and trading room of sorts. There's also a tournament mode that seems to hold dated tournaments that you can join on set dates. There hasn't been one scheduled since the 5th of November this year, despite there being one posted almost weekly before that. Not a good sign. The cash shop is very similar to Panga in that you can purchase enhancement items for the game, additional characters, and costumes for the characters. There's a major difference in purchasing characters in this game versus Panga though. First off, you'll notice that they're much more noticeably cheap than they are in Panga. Using the cash shop currency AP, you'll notice that they only go for about 1500 to 1900 AP. And if you were to take a look at the 5600 AP you get from a mere $10, you'll notice you can get 2 characters for less than the price of 1 in Panga. Heck, the price of the other characters seems a bit more obtainable with the in-game gold as well, only amounting to 5,000 to 7,200. Well, here's the catch. When you purchase a character, you have to start all over again from level 1. You can't share any items, gold, or experience you earned on other characters. You're back at square one. However, alternate characters have alternate stats, so let's look at them briefly. First is one of the 2 starters, Nikki. He got sucked into a vortex and now has to play tennis to save the land or something. I don't get it either. He's perfectly well-rounded stat-wise. Next is Loon, the other starter and the witch girl that brought Nikki to this world. She's an exact match for Nikki stat-wise, but I see far less Loon players than I do Nikki players. Next up is Dhampir, the white-haired vampire pretty boy. His major points are in stamina, making him the ideal battle mode damage taker. Then there's Lucy, a blonde, busty pirate girl with the highest strength stat and ideal for aggressive players. Next up, Shua, a blonde, busty elf girl whose major points are in dexterity. Shua seems to be the most popular character, as I've come across many Shua players in-game. Her dexterity practically gives her complete court coverage, and I've even seen a Shua player solo a guardian after the rest of us were killed, and still win. Second to last is Pochi, a little animal-human hybrid girl whose points lie in willpower. To be honest, I didn't realize that she was a character at first, as I almost never came across anyone playing as her. The high willpower does allow for some confusing spin shots. Finally, Al, a wooden doll who's totally not Pinocchio. Also a seemingly popular character who has high point values in both willpower and dexterity at the sacrifice of everything else. Like Panga, you can equip your character with outfits that serve much more than an aesthetic purpose, with many actually giving great stat boosts. This is also where you can buy rackets that will make a huge difference in gameplay. Luckily, there are cheaper rackets you can get with in-game gold, but many outfits and rackets have level restrictions, so be wary of that. As I mentioned near the end of the community section, there's a housing system, and a lot of the furniture items are kept here. Since they offer a boost to gold and XP, they're not that bad of a purchase if you're looking to cap off some extra AP. With the XP as low as it is, and many of the cash shop items offering some form of XP boost, I can't help but wonder if that was intentional. Let's see if there's any outright experience boosting items in here. What a shock. I hope my apathy didn't shine through too much in this one. At the core, it's really not a bad game. While the basic game doesn't bring too much new ideas to the tennis genre, it's the battle mode that really makes this game unique. It's a lot of fun if you play alongside friends, but the low XP gains and uncooperative communities suck the fun out of a lot of it. Here's my final rating. If you like the Mario Tennis games, there's a decent chance you'll like this. It's got the same quirky power moves added to normal tennis matches, and the battle modes are a lot more fun and offer a bit more strategy. This is a really easy to play game, so there's no real learning curve, at least when starting out. There's a lot of fun to play if you bring a friend along, so consider asking someone else you know if they're interested in giving it a go. If you want someone who isn't a cookie-cutter starter, and judging by the fact that you'll waste your in-game gold by buying a new character you'll have to work on all over again, you might want to drop the cash on a new character early on to save yourself the hassle. The racket this game starts you out with is utter garbage, and not having access to at least one kind of skill attack will make competitive and single-player all that harder to play, so getting a decent racket might be more beneficial to your character as well. Of course, with these seriously slow XP gains in this game, getting an XP booster, either in furniture pieces or in the XP boosting rings, will help, but that's entirely your call. Single player is an absolute bore to play, and since you don't get experience for losing, expect to waste a lot of time in there for no reward. Of course, I'd tell you to delve into the multiplayer, but finding a game as a new player is outright nightmarish. You might want to drag friends along to make it more tolerable, otherwise prepare to yell at your screen a lot. There's really not many locales and frills to this game when compared to Pangya, so you'll end up doing the same things over and over again, and it might end up boring you pretty fast. Next time, I'm looking at the winner of the long-running superhero MMO poll I had up on the site. And to be honest, when I put that up, I did not expect this one to win. So, stay tuned for episode 12 on City of Heroes. Oh, and don't forget, I'll be at MagFest from January 5th to January 8th. Head to magfest.org for more details, and maybe I'll see you there. Hurry though, pre-reg ends pretty soon.
It's time for Tales of Fantastical Tennis with Andy Cack. Tonight's story, Nicky.
So fantasy tennis is about this boy named Nicky, and one day he's all vortex, and there's a witch, and she's like, sorry about that, this is Fantasyland. We worked long and hard to figure out a good name for it, but yeah, we need you to play tennis, it's important. And Nicky was like, okay, and played tennis.
This has been Tales of Fantastical Tennis